Welcome here. So, 4 versus 5. Team blue-white on the left. Luke Purcell, Ben Nikolich, John Rosum. On the right, we have Bob Huang, Zan Syed, and Julian John. So, big showing for the Lotus Box here. You have players on both sides.
That team has been putting up numbers.
Yeah, these are the crews playing against their friends. Looks like Zan on a 6-card hand here for our first game.
He'll be mitigated a little bit being on the draw.
Yeah, there we go. There's the 7th card. It's actually Noble Hierarch.
It's a fine place to start.
Now, John Rossum's your teammate here, and I know what he thinks Ben should do with a lightning bolt.
You should hang on to it.
Yeah, Zan's gonna play a real card on a later turn, and you're gonna want that bolt back.
No. We can do better. Yeah, just in particular in these collected company matchups, that extra mana, that's scary. Don't mess around with that.
Yeah.
Bolt the bird. Bolt the Hierarch.
He's gonna lobby. Well, I hope their team takes a vote, and that 2-1, the bird gets bolted.
All right, everybody submit your ballots. We will have the judge unveil the votes. This is binding. Yes or no, do we bolt the bird? That will almost undoubtedly be the turn 1 play for Zan. Of course it is.
And Nikolich here. Just getting a not a colonnade. It's a tapped blue-white land, but it's a hollowed fountain. No bolt for the bird.
Could you imagine if Celestial Colonnade had basic land types?
Yeah, just go fetch it.
Yikes. Yeah, no bolt in sight just yet. Some counter magic available. There's at least a logic knot, so these fetch lands turn that on. A really powerful sequence that Zan wants to get online. For the Spirit stack against these removal decks, you love to control 2 Draw Skull Captains. Once you enable that, all of your Spirits are going to have hexproof, the Captains checking each other. In the turns leading up to that, everything's just vulnerable to removal.
Second Noble Hierarch here for Zan. Of course, that's going to open a possible door to Electrolyze.
Yep, and no attack. It seems likely that Zan is leaving up a Rattle Chains here, as there is the second land drop. Nikolich going to crack that second fetch land, develop his mana base, but as you mentioned, a 3rd land and an Electrolyze would be a huge problem for Zan.
All right, tap land again. Steam Vents here from Nikolich. Hasn't actually cast a spell yet. Just going to counter punch for a bit. We go tap for his 3rd turn, see what he's kept on. Does he have an Electrolyze?
Electrolyze would be huge.
Yeah.
3 copies this weekend.
Oof.
Ooh, and
is he going to let him untap? Oh.
He might be waiting for this end-step Rattle Chains.
And then Electrolyzing. A bold play, and Zan will just untap.
Zan didn't have it. Just chose not to attack with the Hierarch, or maybe that potential Electrolyze gave him pause.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening on this board in the player's hands, so to speak. You know, no attack, but then no mana spent.
Mm-hmm. And that does happen in decks that are filled with instants and creatures with flash.
Modern Classic players, your pairings for round 8 have been posted online at pairings.starcitygames.com.
Zan just passing back. At this point, he has access to collected company mana.
All right, well, that makes sense. But right now, you know, he has still yet to force Nikolich to play a single spell. And even though I know Spirits plays at instant speed, you got to be careful about that. Mm-hmm. Here is Rattle Chains. Spell Snare from Nikolich. It gets him to spend a mana. That's a start.
And countering the Rattle Chains is really nice, because if that one resolves, then the other Spirits can't be flashed in.
Yeah, then everything else has flash. So much harder to play control against him.
Right. Now, Nikolich likely has a couple removal spells, or at least one available. I believe there's a Lightning Helix hanging out there. But just choking the mana here, countering the Rattle Chains, means that Zan can't flash in that Selfless Spirit. Good tempo play. And despite being a tribal deck, actually 0 Cavern of Souls, the utility land in Zan's deck, he's opted for that 1 Moorland Haunt. And outside of that, just lands that produce mana. So a couple Horizon Canopies as well. I don't think I've ever seen more than one, maybe two Caverns and Spirits. You do have a couple different creature types. Of course, Noble Hierarch has to be cast.
Yeah, we'll see Selfless Spirit here from Zan. Ben, I suppose, could have a Snapcaster Mage here. As a clean answer. Here's how he wants to counter.
Snapcaster Mage, Spell Snare. Really powerful interaction. Sad that we don't get to see more of it in Modern.
Modern Classic players, if you're still
Spirit resolves.
to your seat, please raise your hand.
Yeah, Nikolich still has that Logic Knot and access to a Lightning Helix. He has to be wary because Zan still is representing a collected company with that fetch land plus that Noble Hierarch representing 4 mana here.
Zan over there right now talking with teammate Julian John. Goes back to the current match. And Hierarch will attack in for 2. So Zan starts to force some damage. Let's see if Ben has any other plays on end step.
Yeah, with the 4 mana up, that was a reason to wait and maybe wait to Helix until you have Logic Knot mana as well. With this Hierarch attack, it makes it more inviting to fire off the Lightning Helix. Reasonable chance that Zan will be at the ready with a Spell Queller.
Right.
But if Nikolich has any additional removal spell, he can start to blow through all of that.
Yeah, what I do like about a possible Spell Queller play is because Selfless Spirit's in play, Ben can't just untap and Supreme Verdict. Now Ben didn't spend anything else, just fetched for land and is untapping. I think with the worst case scenario for Zan would be he's playing this very slow and very safe. If Ben Nikolich's hand was a bust, where he actually just was land flooded, then Ben has really cheated his way back into the game.
Right. Giving Ben access to more draw steps if he had a weaker hand is an issue.
Yeah.
But there is a real fear of Ben just pointing a removal spell at your Selfless Spirit, untapping, and casting a sweeper. If you can play around that, you do want to. He's made some inroads in the life total, and he does have some high-impact spells. This is a 4 collected company deck. So he's pretty capable of resetting if things go terribly wrong.
Back over to Zan we go.
I want to say I spotted one of those phantasmal images in his hand. He's playing 2 copies of that this weekend. This is not a board where they really do too much.
And Noble Hierarch cracks in for 2 more. Not even swinging with Selfless Spirit here for Zan.
This deck is interesting. I kind of like it.
Okay.
If the Selfless Spirit is already a creature that has a target on its head, Nikolich probably wants to use a removal spell on that. So if you attack with that and that happens, you lose all your damage for that turn. Meanwhile, the Hierarch, not a very exciting target for removal spell. It's just a backup Hierarch because Zan has plenty of lands, no issue with the mana. This is more likely to connect for 2 points of damage on this turn.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to attack this way, any removal spell can be pointed at the Selfless Spirit in effect. So at least this way, when it happens, yeah, the damage is secured.
Right.
And again, Ben Nikolich playing nothing, Zan playing nothing. We still are just trading land drops, trading turns. Now Ben is paying 2 life a turn for this.
And he still has been hanging on to that Lightning Helix, which means he has a little bit more life to play with. If that's what he has to use on the Selfless Spirit, then it won't gain any life, but there usually ends up being some other target.
Drog Skull Captain, the play from Zan Syed. This should force some sort of play on Nikolich's side.
Yeah. If he has drawn a Cryptic Command anywhere in the last few turns, he'll be able to cast that and leave up Logic Knot, which is a big deal. And you see him fetching before the spell resolves. Could also just be adding extra fuel to the Logic Knot, but a Cryptic Command would be a huge swing for Nikolich.
Lightning Helix at the Selfless Spirit with Drog Skull Captain on the stack. Makes sense. Last chance to do so.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the Selfless Spirit goes off before this Captain resolves. Zan going to give this one a think.
Yeah.
Perhaps thinking about flashing in a Spell Queller in response.
All right. And now Logic Knot for the Drogskull captain. Waiting for it's going to have to be a large delve here from Nikolich. He's going to delve for 5 cards of the graveyard.
It keeps the Lightning Helix as the sole card in the graveyard with the now added Logic Knot.
And then Zan passes back. No more plays. Lets Ben refresh the mana. Ben picked up another Logic Knot, but he had to delve so much on that.
Right.
Also kind of a negative for Ben. Now plays Search for Azcanta, just a 2-card graveyard.
It will help him build up the Logic Knot faster, I'll say that much, but not going to get the payoff for a little while. And Zan cycles through Horizon Canopy, but still no action in his turn. We go back to Nikolich. He'll use that Search for Azcanta, put that Flood of Sand in the graveyard, draw a card for turn. I believe a Lightning Bolt was picked up. Back to Zan. Connects with Noble Hierarch once again. These have been getting in some damage. Nikolich going down to 8.
And we have Moorland Haunt in the graveyard. Zan might this incidental chip strategy. He may be able to do the full 20 using it.
I have to imagine that Moorland Haunt is actually a huge part of why Zan believes this matchup is so good.
Now here's Teferi, Hero of Dominaria from Nikolich. Finally, he's making a commitment to the board. And
Trying to
too soon, yeah.
Trying to become the beatdown.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has Teferi. How could he not?
The ultimate beatdown. And beyond Teferi, he has Logic Knot, Lightning Bolt. Cool thing about Teferi in this matchup, costs 5. Can't put it under a Spell Queller.
I do like that. We'll see if Zan wants to fire off something like Collected Company here. A plus for Teferi, and yes, Zan will go for Collected Company. Has enough mana to Spell Quell to protect the company as well.
And enough to pay for a potential Logic Knot. The ceiling for Nikolich is 3.
Top 6, big one. We see Supreme Phantom, Selfless Spirit, Birds of Paradise as his option. So we'll go for Supreme Phantom and Selfless Spirit, one of each.
It can be tempting to grab both Phantoms because having 4 toughness makes you good against red removal. Now 1 Path to Exile breaks that all up, and the Selfless Spirit actually insulates you against the Supreme Verdict, so makes sense to go for that over the second Phantom. But these Moorland Haunt tokens are going to be 2/2s with that 1 Phantom on the battlefield. And Zan activating the Haunt on the end step. Still during the end step, Nikolich is going to hold. Looks like he has access to Lightning Bolt and Electrolyze.
Okay.
And at 4 p.m., Sealed Spectaculars. Your second round pairings are being posted at your pairing store. Please make your way to your seats again.
Still debating here yet. We're still on end step. Those Teferi lands have untapped.
Yeah, so you want to do something about the Supreme Phantom, which means you have to go through the Selfless Spirit.
Right. Here's Lightning Bolt on Selfless Spirit. Okay, can't do much about that. So Zan will sacrifice it. Now the creatures are indestructible. If that trigger resolves, and it does.
Yeah, unfortunately with the Supreme Phantom,
yeah, these Moorland Haunt tokens are big deals.
it's tough to do too much with the Electrolyze. You could have thrown the Electrolyze at just the Spirit and then Lightning Bolt in response. The issue with that is that the Selfless Spirit is the only target. Your Electrolyze no longer draws a card.
Sure. Here is Phantasmal Image. Assume that's going to copy Supreme Phantom if this works out. And it will. The Spirit now can exalt all the way up to a 5. It's a 3/3.
Yeah, damage output actually the same with both creatures or 1 exalting.
I'm swing with both. Cool trick here. Ben can... well, we'll get the wording on Electrolyze. It's not divided evenly. It's any way you choose. Is that right?
Right. You do get to choose how to split Electrolyze. So I think what you're saying is do something like target both hierarchs and do 0 to the image?
No, with Fireball, there used to be a trick where you could, if you'd Fireballed an image and another creature, the image would die, and then all 2 would go onto the other, like the whole Fireball would go onto the other creature.
Okay.
Because it said divided evenly.
Electrolyze only allows you to target 1 or 2 things.
So it's divided as you choose, so you actually have to lock in the number, so that trick wouldn't work here.
Mm-hmm.
And that swing, despite having 5 points of attack and a Teferi at 5, Zan ignores the Planeswalker and sends Nikolich to 3.
Yeah, and Teferi has to have a big hit to make anything lethal this turn. Even if there is a sweeper, Zan minimally gets to use the Moorland Haunt and start cranking out 1/1s.
See, is there that Supreme Verdict? There is. Nikolich has one. Now, of course, that can be spell quelled.
Or not.
Or not. Zan, will he bin the team? Moorland Haunt is up. Plays land 8. Imagine we'll see another card drawn with Teferi. There we go for the untap 2.
Ooh, and Nikolich there with an Electrolyze takes care of the Spirit. Gonna redraw on that. And we'll go back to Zan.
Yeah, just confirming here on some board state. Yeah. They did the Teferi, but they didn't use the die. They didn't actually turn it up to 6. So we're confirming we've corrected. Yeah, so the Teferi is at 6 loyalty.
Right. That's not the sort of thing you can miss.
I mean, he drew the card and untapped the lands.
Right.
So. And now Zan's plan really seemed to be a I'm trying to fade Supreme Verdict situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, given that the best he could muster at the end of that was trying to make a Moorland Haunt token.
Right.
Didn't follow up with like Collected Company.
Yeah, and now with Azcanta transforming Teferi on 7, Nikolich should be in control here. I see a main phase Think Twice.
Powerful Magic card.
Yeah, 2 of those in the list today for Nikolich.
Well, yeah, it's Think Twice.
Well, that'd be Think 4 times.
It's a lot of thinking.
Twice, thrice. I don't know, what's the Think?
You're the math guy, man.
Quadrice. the archaic term. You only see it in Victorian literature.
It's really too bad they never printed a divination with flashback called Think 4 times. That would have been a good plant for the unset.
It just need to be named Think 4 times.
Yes. The card has to be called that.
They did think 4C is a card. I like that.
That's true.
And now we're seeing Electro. Yeah, Zan just doesn't even want to do this anymore. Azcanta finds an Electrolyze. Teferi setting up for an emblem. That's going to be good enough. Game 1 goes to Jeskai Control and Ben Nikolich.
A big part of that game was Nikolich having that early spell snare for the Rattle Chains. With Zan has to play his deck all at sorcery speed, that makes you a lot worse in matchups like this.
All right, so let's look at the sideboards for the 2 teams. On Zan Syed's side, you talked about how last weekend Invisible Stalker was a sideboard card, and he has a similar plan today.
Yeah, the 3 Geist-Sustained Traft at the top of the sideboard. That one going to be have to be answered by a Logic Knot on the way down or a Supreme Verdict later.
And it's a Spirit.
Yes. So it can gain hexproof. That's what you're saying, right?
That was exactly it.
Yeah. This one always has it. Rest of the sideboard, 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. That can be quite good in the matchup. Tax Cryptic Command, Tax Soul Sweepers. 2 Unified Will. That one's pretty powerful. Zan's going to have more creatures. 2 Worship, not so much. 2 Rest in Peace, no thank you. 2 Stony Silence, 2 Damping Sphere. This stuff's not so good.
Yeah, nothing like, I guess there's only a few There's 4 Snapcasters. That's not enough to justify Rest in Peace.
I am so happy when people board in Rest in Peace against my Snapcaster Mage deck.
Well, hold on. He's also a Logic Knot deck and a Search for Azcanta deck. Are we reaching it? And 4 Snaps. Are we reaching enough? And 2 Think Twice.
It just doesn't do anything.
All right. On Ben Nikolich's side, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Dispel, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Celestial Purge, a Wear Tear, an Elspeth Sun's Champion, Settle the Wreckage, Baneslayer Angel, Stony Silence, Negate, and Engineered Explosives. Not too much for additional removal, but what he does is pretty good.
The Explosives is quite nice. That's going to give a clean answer to these Geist-Sustained Traft. Can often be a 2 or even 3 for 1 on top of that. I like one copy of Dispel against Collected Company decks. That can really be quite good here. Don't mind Vendilion Click just for engaging in combat for all these creatures. As long as you can keep the Lord count low, the Click should be able to trade in combat. Settles just fine. Don't mind that kind of sweeper. And I do like Baneslayer Angel quite a lot. It's going to be larger than these spirits unless there's a lot of lords.
Yeah, and Zan's deck doesn't play removal or don't have lords like Regery or something that actually gives true evasion.
Right. I would be putting these Path to Exiles on the sideboard for sure. Probably going to be up to the Unified wheels to stop a Baneslayer in the sideboard games, and it's another 5-mana spell, so Spell Queller can't say boo about it.
All right. So one thing, StarCityGames.com, we have our pre-release playmats. We like to do some things from our creature collection. Guilds of Ravnica, the next set coming out in Magic the Gathering. And if you come playing on our pre-release here, or your local game store signs up for it, you can get this new playmat, Meals on Steel. That's given for the Guilds of Ravnica pre-release, September 29th and 30th. Stores today can sign up to give this away at their pre-releases at StarCityGames.com/pre-release.
This is a delightful crew.
Look at these. I like them.
I want to be friends with that hippo. And I want to know how much coffee that cat drank.
Oh, look at those eyes. Wow.
I don't know what's going on
Wow,
there.
it's just, he's so excited.
I'm just so happy to be on this pillar up here.
First match result in. You missed on the first game, but 2-0. Bob Huang, you don't want to play against him in Legacy.
No.
Nope. He takes down the match.
Does he ever lose a game? Unclear.
So, Ben Nikolich and John Rosum, they're going to have to carry the team to victory this time. Nikolich has won a game. Rosum still working on the first one, which, to be fair, is a good sign.
For Rosum, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's rare that you go this late with Blade Control and lose game one.
Yeah. Red-Black has some grindy elements, but not nearly as much as Blue-White.
And a lot of them are out of the sideboard, and if it's a post-board game, I'd be less confident. I don't think I lose to Black-Red too often on turn 12.
Right.
It happens.
This is just a Bomat Courier that's got 6 cards under it right now or something like that.
Yeah, that's not great. Sometimes, though, it's like, half of them will be lands.
Yeah, all kinds of back and forth there, but mostly the answers from Blue-White just cleanly deal with the threats from Red-Black.
Yeah, Geist Saint draft board in for Zan. Now, you mentioned no Cavern of Souls, so there are some areas of interaction for Nikolich.
Yeah, it seems pretty low cost. Obviously, there's not that many counterspells in Modern. But if you look at the Day 2 breakdown, we have 5 Jeskai, 3 Blue-White. That's 8 decks out of 26. It's pretty easy to slot 1 Cavern of Souls in your deck. This deck has 3 basics. You want to have that kind of thing for when you get hit by Path to Exile. I get it. But it doesn't hurt the mana too much. There's 2 copies of Hallowed Fountain. The second Hallowed Fountain, it's mostly exchangeable. Just the 2 Horizon Canopies. You don't want to go too light on green sources, so you want to be able to cast Noble Hierarch, Collected Company, that sort of thing. I don't know. 1 Cavern seems doable.
And there we have it. To confirm, game 1 does go to John Rosum in Blue-White Control. Pacing was just about right for a control win. So Nikolich and Rosum both trying to do the work needed to get them into the semifinals. They both need to pick up match wins.
Mm-hmm. For Nikolich, he is up a game, but he's going to have to defeat the most recent Modern Open champion.
Got to beat the champ to become the champ. That's how it goes.
I do enjoy that when it comes to pass.
I had followed, for a while there was... I was wondering, there's a thread I was reading about this where if we had the Magic World Champion and every time they lost a match, they had a belt that passed to the next guy, who would have it right now?
Yeah, I saw that. It was kind of a spreadsheet that laid out everybody.
Yeah.
It was a really cool project.
A lot of times it's the person who wins the most recent Grand Prix, actually. Because if someone at the Grand Prix shows up with the belt, it ends up on the Grand Prix winner.
Right.
And someone's like, is that true? I'm like, yes. That is true.
Yeah.
That is how that works.
Either they win the tournament or somebody else beats them and somebody else wins the tournament.
Yeah, there's a well-ordering principle going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And Zan with a very fast start. Noble Hierarch into Mausoleum Wanderer and Thalia. This could paralyze a control deck like Ben Nikolich.
Yeah, Nikolich won't be able to cast a Think Twice until turn 3. More importantly.
And then Zan will counter it.
Yeah, the Mausoleum Wanderer just kind of adds to that.
Swinging for 3 from Zan.
Yeah, this pushes back a lot of that disruption. Nikolich could be able to cast a Lightning Bolt or a Path to Exile now. Now he has 2 mana, but that's not a good rate for a removal spell. Electrolyze won't be online until he has 4 mana. Supreme Verdict until he has 5.
If he wants to bolt Thalia, it'll likely take him until turn 3 to do that. And then he has to hope there's no Spell Queller.
Right. Notably, it will cost Zan 5 to cast a Collected Company, so it would currently have to be exactly Spell Queller. You couldn't company into it, but it's still scary stuff. Nikolich makes a land drop and passes back. Zan answers with Rattle Chains.
And still here before the untap. Path to Exile for 2 mana. So do this in response so that Wanderer isn't pumped.
Yeah, you want to make sure this goes off on the Thalia.
Yeah, so that'll work.
Though certainly not out of the woods just yet.
No. Now, Ben does have 1 white mana in that Sacred Foundry. He would have to have plain Supreme Verdict would be great. And then he has to make sure there's no Spell Queller.
Right. And with this path going off, though, that makes it pretty free for Zan to use the Horizon Canopy to just draw a card here.
Yeah, they're still on end step. Sure.
Right.
Of course, even if there is that Supreme Verdict, we're still looking at cards like Collected Company.
Spell Queller to catch it.
Geist of St. Trapped is in Zan's hand. As the board stands right now, I'm not sure that Zan actually wants to commit as heavy of a threat as that. His board's already pretty good.
Yeah, if he still had the Thalia, it'd be one thing.
Right.
But with Thalia down, doesn't seem great.
Yeah, he'd have no insurance against just Supreme Verdict to go.
Right. Also, he just has Rattle Chains, so he can flash it in on Ben's turn if he wants to. Yeah, that card is a big deal. All right. Looks like players are verifying exactly where life total is. Might have been a discrepancy, but they're getting that hammered out. We'll be going back to Nikolich in any second, I assume.
So an update from our bracket. The metagame gurus are not going to move on. They're at the 8th seed. They fall. That Bryant Cook's team, Cook, Saraceno, and Cotrip win 2 of their matches. They're on the semis, and they await the winner here.
Yeah, congrats to the gurus on the top 8, but yeah, that poll was really tough. That's going to be it for them. All right, Nikolich misses on the 4th land. It's passing back here, it seems.
Yeah, he does have the Supreme Verdict. However, may not matter. This flashed in Geist of St. Trapped. This pretty big deal here. Ben has both Think Twice and Electrolyze in hand, so he has ways to set up for the next land drop. See if in response he wants to do anything. No, he'll let Zan untap with the Geist.
Means the attack this turn
is for a bunch.
9.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's an angel token, not a spirit,
yeah.
So a lord would not make it lethal.
I was thinking the same thing.
Actually, hold on. Mausoleum Wanderer. A lord
Double
would
pumps,
make it
yeah.
lethal.
I don't know if Zan needs to go for that.
Without a counterspell backup, I would not expect it.
Yeah, well, his board's just already so good here. He's forcing Nikolich to have a Supreme Verdict next turn, and Zan does have Collected Company. So I think putting Zan to 4, forcing a Supreme Verdict, and then companying on end step is pretty lethal anyway.
Unless you have the Spirit Lord to pump and backup, it would not make a lot of sense to just go for it here. Yeah, he just has pretty good backup if this attack doesn't work, and if he gets hit by Wrath of God.
Snapcaster Mage for Path to Exile from Nikolich.
And that's pretty good because it gets to block the Geist of St. Trapped.
Yeah. Now, of course, now if Zan has a Lord, I'd be very happy to flash it into play.
Right.
And he'll go ahead and cast the Path.
I believe targeting his own Snapcaster Mage.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That'll drum up the white mana for that Supreme Verdict.
But he is blocking the Geist first and
Correct.
then block. Yeah. So he's Looks to take 7. He'd go to 6.
I'm kind of interested in using the Wanderer on this if I'm Zan.
Ooh. Well, you can always just deal the... I suppose you can deal the 7 damage and then company on his end step. This is pretty clear, I think, from Nikolich that he's got Supreme Verdict. There's no other reason he'd make this play.
Right.
Zan's going to let it happen.
I suppose it's pretty unlikely that Nikolich has Verdict plus something that matters. Now, the worst-case scenario is if Nikolich draws a 5th land untapped and has Supreme Verdict plus Dispel. There are 2 in the sideboard, and I do like bringing 1 copy in. Now, that's a lot of stuff that would happen. The extra point of damage, it's not worth nothing.
Land 5 here from Nikolich. And yes, Point Stewart says, I think I got a Supreme Verdict here. And that's what he'll do. Can't really respond. Zan will lose the board. Floats a mana. But he gets to company on end step. And that's a big... This is a lot of pressure. If this one misses, it's bad news for Zan.
The land left up was Sacred Foundry for Nikolich.
Company, top cards. What do we see? 1, land, Rattle Chain, Supreme Phantom, Spell Queller. Yeah. Now, Ryan, what about the play of trying to hit the Spell Queller off the company? That's just too high of a risk.
You just lose everything if you miss.
Yeah. So he will get Spell Queller, Supreme Phantom. It's 4 damage coming in.
And it also is the matter of this being Sacred Foundry, which means any removal spell hits your Queller, and it's kind of for naught.
We'd have the Wanderer, so that would be okay. But if you'd hit it, it'd be great. But, I mean, if you don't,
Sure.
you lose. Here's a swing for 4. Nikolich down to 2. He's got that Moorland Haunt to Zan and a Horizon Canopy, and he'll just pass back.
Yeah, Zan in a very good position here.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's not unbeatable.
And as we know, Nikolich full up on spells.
Right.
Tends to be the situation when your opponent misses a land drop. Now, he's posturing as if he wants to cast a Think Twice, which is not a start that inspires confidence.
No, if he's got time to do that, he's either in a great spot or more likely it's a desperate move. Draws a mountain. That's pretty decent. Doesn't cost him a life point.
Yeah.
Says go. He has Lightning Helix and Lightning Bolt in hand. Zan will use Moorland Haunt. Or will he? He will. Exiles a spirit. Creature to get a spirit token.
And this is the window with Spell Queller down Nikolich was waiting for to cast some removal spells.
Yeah, absolutely. Lightning Helix would be a great place to start. And that's what it will be. He'll Helix down the Supreme Phantom. Nikolich back up to 5 and bolts down the Spell Queller. Zan just with a 1-1.
Now, the position has not changed that much. Nikolich still kind of treading water. He gained some life, which is good. You got to hit those creatures, but the Moorland Haunt, that just makes that up and then some over time. In order to overcome that kind of card advantage, Nikolich probably needs to get a Planeswalker online, probably needs to ferry.
Land 5 here from Zan. Noble Hierarch, that'll exalt that spirit in for 2. Ben drops to 3.
Yeah, that's a big deal. A veritable time walk. Does look like Nikolich does have some removal spells in the holdings, though. Still has a good mix of cards in hand.
End step, Zan's going to make another Spirit Token, and here comes an Electrolyze from Nikolich. I like how he's doing all these when Spell Queller would be tapped down.
Right.
Going to hit Spirit Token. I assume Spirit Token and Hierarch is just better than Spirit Token and Spirit Token. Well, looks like it's both the Spirit Tokens, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference. Either way, something is attacking for 1 next turn.
Yeah, I guess a Snapcaster Mage can block a Hierarch and not a Spirit.
Right.
Back over to Zan we go. He's got Ben down to 3. Made it this far, but it's been struggling to find these last points. Hierarch swings for 1. Here's Supreme Phantom.
This card looks really good when you have multiple spirits on the battlefield.
Spell Snare, a big play from Nikolich. He's keeping pace in such a good way right here.
He's got to do something about these Moorland Haunts. You have to do more than just kill the Spirit Token every turn. And that was actually a really good draw, Celestial Colonnade.
Yeah, another Moorland Haunt token. This one is going to be lethal, so moves are forced from Nikolich.
Something like Snapcaster or Electrolyze would be pretty big.
Sure, and is that what we're setting up for? It's something with 4 mana. Yeah, Snapcaster, Lightning Helix actually, not Electrolyze.
Suppose he doesn't want to gain that life.
Yeah, and if he needs to remove the Noble Hierarch, this blocker will do it. And look at Nikolich just putting on a show here. It didn't look like he was going to win this game, and now starting to think he might just do it. Here is Drogskull Captain, and it's a logic knot from Nikolich. Now this is the first window where Spell Queller has been shields down for Nikolich. And so we'll see whether he actually has it.
Yeah, the sequencing has left it where Zan has not had a window to execute a Spell Queller for many turns.
Delving 4 ways. Ben trying to decide if he wants to keep Think Twice, Lightning Bolt, and Supreme Verdict. He has to exile one of them and goes for Supreme Verdict.
I'm a little surprised at keeping Lightning Bolt over Electrolyze. The hedge is probably just Spell Queller. Makes it too big of a deal.
And Zan, he gets called on it and says, no, I don't have the Spell Queller. That resolves. And now we see Search for Azcanta from Nikolich and a pass. He may have just turned the corner here. The Moorland Haunt makes another token. Last card in Nikolich's hand is Lightning Bolt. Building up towards Search for Azcanta. Only 3 cards in the graveyard, though, from that logic knot.
And on future turns, Nikolich will be able to activate the Colonnade and cast a spell on the same turn.
Yeah, and here's Supreme Phantom. And there actually is a Collected Company in Zan's hand. So I'm not sure Nikolich is not out of the woods yet.
Yeah. Yeah, this Moorland Haunt has been worth so many cards.
Yeah, and Nikolich does have 3 Field of Ruin, but he hasn't found any of them yet, and he's paid dearly.
Right.
So swing this would exalt up to 3 from the Spirit Token. Nikolich is going to use, I think, Lightning Bolt just on the token. Well, first he'll flashback Think Twice. Draws him a card. Does keep him a card down on Search for Azcanta. And Bolt at Supreme Phantom. Big play. Collected Company from Zan. This could be lethal.
A Lord would even block for the Phantom. Spell Queller also kind of does the thing.
And this, Ryan, this was not a good company. I don't know how big of a miss it was, but I think it's a large miss. It's Wanderer Thalia. So he can counter.
Yeah, Wanderer is a 2 because of the Supreme Phantom. And I do think it's worth it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll play defense there. So Ben Nikolich down to 2. He needs Supreme Verdict again. How many does he... Let's see. He is on 2 copies. And he exiled it to Snapcaster Mage. Which could be a bit... I mean, if he draws one, then that would be a... There's the Field of Ruin. Sure.
Yeah, and he just needs too many answers to creatures. He actually has to go over it with the search.
And I don't think he's found a way out. He maybe had it to game 3. For a while, Ben Nikolich was really just grinding out some advantage here. I don't think he'll get the last points.
Maybe he's trying to claw his way in. At the end of the day, though, when you're just hitting creatures and not damaging your opponent, It's a tough battle.
Settle the Wreckage is in Ben's sideboard. Perhaps that's a card to be playing around.
These players do have deck lists. Zan will be aware of it.
Attention Magic players, this is the last call to register.
Not to mention that they test on the same team.
This weekend at 6 p.m. today, we're running
Draw Skull Captain from Zan.
Modern Turbo. If you want to finish out your weekend with a standard or modern match for 80 tickets.
This makes it so that the Supreme Phantom and the Spirit Token are both lethal on attacks.
Path to Exile on Supreme Phantom in response. Brian, that doesn't solve it, right? This, I guess he can fetch and block with Colonnade.
Yeah, he has the mana to activate that.
Okay, so Supreme Phantom will get hit by this path. Ben is so close this whole time.
I mean, once he gets to all these creatures in this Moorland Haunt, he still has to figure out a way to win the game.
Just checking. Yeah, he does have a basic left in his deck to fetch. But another Draw Skull Captain, is that lethal now? No, it's
You
not.
get to exalt the token up to a 4, so you get to eat the Colonnade for whatever that's worth.
Okay.
Honestly, that's probably worth it. I guess, hold on, we have 5 cards in Graveyard, plus that fetch land for the search. So you gotta think
I don't want to put that in the
Yeah,
yard.
you gotta think about letting Nikolich transform that. Because the attack's very good next turn.
Well, if you beat the Colonnade, then right now Nikolich doesn't, and we're looking at enough mana to activate as Kanta, find Supreme Verdict, cast it through Thalia. So taking him off 1 mana, I think keeps him off that play unless he draws a land for the turn.
Gotcha.
It's a little specific, but
Right.
that is the card that's going to beat him if there is one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess chaining Cryptic Commands always works too. Which again, that is 9 mana, so taking away a land is very good, and Zan's actually made that assessment. And Zan's teammate, Julian John, wins in Standard, forcing a Game 3. More pressure on Nikolich to try to figure out a way to win this. He drops to 1 on the fetch land. Colonnade will have to trade with the Spirit Token.
That is an ugly trade. All right. Big look here with the search for Escanta.
Yeah, it's going to transform no matter how he scries.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at, what, Supreme Verdict, Cryptic Command, and that might just be it?
Against this board, I would say so.
So, Bins, Transform, Draw.
Yeah, it has to be something that just deals with everything.
Yeah.
With the double captain, those are just hexproof threats.
Electrolyze, no good. And I think he's short, right? He didn't find the land, so because that land is gone, Nikolich can't, even if he finds one of those spells, he can't cast it.
I believe that to be the case.
Now, so he's going to Electrolyze, 1/1, draw, and he needs to draw into Cryptic or Supreme Verdict. And he did. That's Cryptic Command.
Ooh. He also gets to Cryptic to tap and bounce the Snapcaster Mage, which means he has
another
on the
Cryptic.
following turn.
Yeah, he had a 5-outer there to hit, and he hits. Maybe, I think it's a Cryptic. No, it's Vendilion Click.
That one's quite good as well.
Okay. Shows Zan's hand. He blocks it. It's a trade.
And that makes drawing just
Wait,
a
hold
removal
on.
spell good again.
And he has an Escanta going. That's not even hard for Ben to do.
Right. The More Than Haunt's still a factor.
Right. Yeah, well, he had to bin a Field of Ruin on that search for Escanta. You're absolutely right. Morlonot's a factor. I mean, he's at 1. So 3 mana here. We're activating Search, or did he draw something? We'll see.
He's grabbing those basics. It feels like Search.
Yeah. 3 mana. And yeah, search for Escanto. That'll be activated. Land, land. Nothing yet, nothing yet, nothing yet. Was the last card good? Settle the Wreckage. Yes, he left up correct mana for Settle the Wreckage. And sure, why not? He'll attack with Snapcaster Mage.
It's not blocking.
Says go. I think his last card is a fetch land, so no thanks.
Right.
And Zan, Moorland Haunt goes to work again.
Yeah, he gets to throw this spirit token into that Settle the Wreckage. If he's able to draw a Spell Queller or can Collected Company into one, that's something. Looks like no.
Been really hoping to Escanta into another Lightning Helix.
Yeah, gaining that life would give him a lot more breathing room.
Zan finds land and he passes, so it's still going. Nikolich just keeps hanging on here. Finds another land. That one's a hollowed fountain, so he can put into play tapped. Next turn he'll do something. And again, we're Escanting to keep the game going. Teferi, that's no good. Did he find something this time? Electrolyze. No, that doesn't do it, Ryan.
That won't take care of Captain and Spirit Token.
Electrolyze the Drogskull Captain. And now he's going to try to draw into something? Oh, boy.
Yeah, it would have to be path.
And I think it's Supreme Verdict. Swings for 2.
Yeah, that's not going to do
I think he's
it.
finally out.
It looks like the Moorland Haunt has finally worn Nikolich down.
And Zan does it. So we'll be going to a Game 3. What a struggle for those last few points. Ben Nikolich is playing to all his outs. Wow.
Yeah, you really saw the power of Moorland Haunt in that game, and really so far in the match. It's just such a huge element. You know, Nikolich got so many 2-for-1s. There was those Electrolyze, Snapcaster Mages, but how many Spirit Tokens did Zan make? 8?
A lot.
A lot.
I mean, Nikolich would go down to 2, Helix up to 5, went down to 2 again, Helix up to 5 again. It was just
That was a slog.
every turn.
These players are pretty lucky we're at untimed rounds. We're coming up on the 50th minute.
Yeah, they'd be getting close to time here. Now I see the whole teammates are conferring here. No Game 3s have started yet, so it'll be the match between Rosum and Julian John, the Nikolich versus Syed match. Nikolich and Rosum both need wins.
Yeah. Bob, of course, did close the Legacy match 2-0.
Yeah, like
As
half
he's
an hour
wont
ago.
to do. Yeah, he's been hanging out.
And we actually have to report. We have to report an error here. So the Rosum Julian John match actually has concluded. The Game 2 was misreported, so we got it wrong on that. Ron Rosum, a 2-0 winner there. So this match between Nikolich and Syed is going to be the decider.
Yeah, for all the marbles. Can Nikolich beat the champ?
Yeah, you have to if you want to become the champ.
Nikolich will be on the play.
Right for a third game here, yeah. And that last game, so we saw, the first game we saw Zan kind of just go for chip damage the entire time. That went most of the way but couldn't close. The second game we saw a really fast start from Zan that Nikolich was never really able to recover from. I mean, well, he was able to, I don't know, he recovered from it and didn't.
Yeah, the thing I keep coming back to, when the Spirit deck first showed up on the Modern scene, I was still playing a good amount of Grixis Control.
Yeah.
And I think that Bant Spirits was a pretty favorable matchup. However, now and again, just in the queues, I would run into somebody playing Blue-White Spirits, and they would play a Moorland Haunt. And I would consider conceding on the spot.
Card's just impossible to deal with.
Unless you can deal 20 points of damage, that's going to wear out your removal. It's just really tough for the control decks to get through it. And in particular, decks like Jeskai, decks like Grixis, they're trying to actually connect with Snapcaster Mage to get a good chunk of the damage through, because your lightning bolts, they have to target creatures. You know, the Spell Quellers, the Lords are going to tax your Lightning Bolts. And more than Haunt, the Spirit Token just trades with your Snapcaster Mage. You can't do anything about that. It's really hard to slog through this card. I think that is one of the big innovations in this list, finding room for that one Moorland Haunt. And with so much Jeskai in the field, it's going to pay off. Now, Jeskai, you know, Field of Ruin is a recent addition to the format. Makes it so you can't always activate the Moorland Haunt as many times as you want. But you force the Jeskai player to produce both Field of Ruin and removal spells. We saw in that game, Nikolich actually had to use his Search for his Content to put Field of Ruin in the graveyard. He had to answer the battlefield first.
Yeah. There are 3 fields. So in some percentage of these games, Nikolich will just incidentally have an answer to Moorland Haunt.
Right.
3 fields to 1 Haunt. But in the games like that, where it doesn't exist, it's a huge problem.
Yep.
There's trading land drops, so this one will decide it. Lightning Helix in the opener here for Ben. And he'll Helix down Noble Hierarch. Much to teammate John Rosum's disappointment.
Probably just watching and shaking his head.
He just wasted a card.
There, look at that.
Look at these, he's just grossed out.
Did you really Helix that Noble Hierarch?
Zan's going to play a Supreme Phantom, and John's going to say, I told you so.
Yeah.
Look, that's an X3. Right there.
Can't win them all.
And Rosum,
Ooh.
okay, hold on. Nikolich, rather, missing land 3. That's going to be big.
And that's certainly an argument for using your mana when you have it, if you're not going to make your land drops. There is a Logic Knot available, but
yeah,
you can't win with this deck without making your 4th land drop.
Yeah, he's got Supreme Verdict in his hand as well, so Nikolich can miss a couple land drops and recover, but you're right, this is a big issue for the deck.
Yeah. You have to get up to Supreme Verdict and Cryptic Command territory. And he doesn't even have his 3rd mana. Electrolyze is another one that's really hard to miss on. Though before that becomes a factor, he has to do something about the Supreme Phantom.
Another miss for Nikolich. Passes again. And if Zan has cards like Collected Company in his hand, it's going to be very difficult. Right now, he's just hitting for 1, repeated hits for 1 with Supreme Phantom. That's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
And now Nikolich. All right, land 3 shows up, which means we pass the turn. But
he is still representing that Logic Knot. And Zan's not going to cast into it, just activates Horizon Canopy. I like that. And
actually, if Zan's acting Horizon Canopy here with his 4th land, then there's not much of a punishment for Nikolich missing those land drops. You know, Zan's not as ahead on mana anymore.
I mean, yes and no, right? Nikolich just has Logic Knot, so casting the spell would cost Zan a lot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Zan. Yeah, it's right now the board is Zan is plus. He has a slightly better board. He's +1 on lands. There's some danger where like if Ben keeps missing and Zan gets +3 on mana, he can just bully.
Right.
I mean, Zan's got a full grip. We still have a lot of a game going.
Right, and that is kind of the trajectory that we're on.
Electrolyze upstairs from Nikolich.
Digging for a Lightning Bolt or a Path to Exile.
There's a path.
Got to do something about the Supreme Phantom before you can meaningful Electrolyze. And did pick up Lightning Bolt, but without a 4th land, they would be taking down Logic Knot, which
that basic plains is no good.
That is scary. Yeah, you don't got to sell me on basic plains being no good.
And so to keep up Logic Knot, he's just going to use the Path to Exile on the Supreme Phantom.
With Zan using that Horizon Canopy on the previous turn, you can be pretty confident that Zan's hand is pretty heavy on lands. You know, we know that he made at least that 4th land drop.
Yeah, it does feel like it here.
So the Path to Exile, not really a huge deal. It becomes one when Zan starts having 6, 7, 8 mana. Assuming he's able to do things like double Collected Company Spell Queller, Collected Company leave up Rattle Chains. That stuff is all really scary. And it looks like Zan does have Plains in his hand. If he plays that, then both players know that that's all of the basics in the deck. That makes future Path to Exile, Settle the Wreckage, Field of Ruin, all excellent.
Mausoleum Wanderer here from Syed.
And he goes for Hollowed Fountain over Plains. Makes sense, it enters tapped. Also disguises the fact that all those paths are real good.
Please find your seats for your one and only round of play.
We will see that Lightning Bolt then on Mausoleum Wanderer. It's on end step. Logic Knot is down, but no card like Collected Company just yet. Nikolich draws Cryptic Command. No help there, continues to pass. Seems to be hamstrung on mana, but Zan still can't create a board just yet, so is not being punished for it. Zan's got at least 2 more lands here.
And he does play that Plains. It gets him to 7 mana. Potentially could have Collected Company plus Spell Queller here. That would be a big deal. He passes. Nikolich flashes in the Snapcaster Mage. The reason being, he's going to have to discard a hand size if he doesn't draw a land.
So he just has it path itself. Nice natural connection. I think is the card. There
from Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah, it's the instant speed rampant growth. And Zan will take this opportunity to Collected Company. And I like that Thalia's in here, because after this path, there is a Supreme Verdict. However, if there's Thalia, he can't cast it. So something like Geist of St. Trapped plus Thalia here is really appealing for Zan. His teammates both want Wanderer with Geist. Zan looking at Thalia Geist. Now, if he picks Wanderer Geist, Zan's right here. His teammates are leading him astray on Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, Wanderer Thalia lets you cover the path and then push back on the mana.
But I want the Geist here, you know. I want Geist and then insurance from Supreme Verdict. And that's what Zan's going to do. He goes with his first thought, and that's going to pay off.
Right. Assuming Nikolich does not produce an untapped land.
Right. Well, he can't act. You know, he already has double white. Never mind. I was going to say he can't path into second white. Doesn't need to.
Yeah, Hollowed Fountain has that covered.
Well, it depends whether or not there's Spell Queller up. If there's Spell Queller up, none of this matters.
Right. Yeah, then the Geist is pretty free to close things up in short order.
Yeah.
And we have seen Zan displaying a lot of patience with spells. I think he drew Botanical Sanctum and chose to play Plains instead.
That would suggest Spell Queller. I mean, if he can do something like Spell Queller and then untap Drogskull Captain, we're getting into a spot where I don't know how Nikolich wins it anymore.
Right.
And Nikolich did not hit the land, so this is so far so good. So far, so good for Zan.
Yep. Can't even do anything like Cryptic Command.
Drogskull Captain.
Granting hexproof to the Geist. You might see Nikolich snap off a Logic Knot here.
Sure. And it looks like that's just going to happen. So we have 8 damage in, Nikolich down to 9. Make that 9 damage, Nikolich down to 8. There's a pump off Drogskull Captain.
Right. Yeah, this is lethal next turn if nothing changes.
And think twice for 3 mana from Nikolich. Not an inspiring play.
No.
Just trying to hit lands. He finds Field of Ruin.
It's a land.
Is it enough? I mean, he doesn't have an answer to Spell Queller anymore.
Right.
He's going to tap out and hope this Supreme Verdict saves him. Does it? Does Zan have the Spell Queller? He does, and that's going to be the match. Syed going for back-to-back. He said you got to beat the champ to become the champ. Well, it's not going to happen this round. With a clutch win there in Game 3. It is Bob Huang, Syed, and Julian John moving on to the semis.
Right. Great run by Team Blue-White, but ultimately it turned out that much to the bemusement of John Ross,